I was 29 when my dream was stolen. An idea I had poured my soul into taken by someone I trusted, repackaged, and sold as their own. But this isn't a story about loss. It's a story about fire, not the kind that rages, but the kind that smolders in silence and burns everything in its path when the time is right. My name's Lucas, and this is how I turned betrayal into a quiet revolution. Stay with me, because revenge doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Back then, I lived in a modest apartment in Oakland, just a few blocks from Lake Merritt. Each morning, same rhythm: grab a black coffee from the corner cafe on Grand Avenue, then hop on BART to San Francisco, where I worked as a product analyst at a mid-sized tech company called Nextlify. It wasn't glamorous hours of data, reports, and prototypes that rarely made it past whiteboards. But I loved it. I wasn't chasing a title. I believed in the hustle. If you showed up and gave it everything, someone would notice. That's what kept me grinding long after midnight, tweaking spreadsheets, sketching ideas on napkins, pitching in half-lit conference rooms with flickering bulbs. I grew up in a working-class family in San Jose, the kind of people who believed that effort and honesty would always pay off. So I gave Nextlify my all, stayed late, long after the cleaning crews left, walked home through Oakland's Chinatown, the neon signs buzzing overhead, dreaming about the day one of my ideas would land. And then, one did. I called it FoodLink AI. It wasn't just another app. It was a platform that used artificial intelligence to transform food supply chains, helping restaurants, grocery stores, and even farmers predict exactly what they needed. Cutting waste, saving millions. This wasn't theory. I'd spent weekends at the Ferry Building Market talking to vendors who lost crops because of missed forecasts, restaurant owners who shut down because their deliveries never arrived. I wanted to fix that. So I built, nights, weekends, hunched over a laptop that sounded like it was ready for takeoff. I wasn't a code wizard, but I made it work, and more than that, I believed in it. It kept me up at night, in the best way. When I finally got the chance to pitch it, I felt like I was standing on a ledge, with everything I'd built teetering on the edge of recognition. The meeting was on the 10th floor, with glass walls. San Francisco's skyline is behind me. Gary, my boss, sat there with his arms crossed, expression unreadable. I walked them through the numbers. FoodLink AI could cut supply chain costs by 15% and reduce errors by 20%. The prototype was clunky, but real. When I finished, there was applause, not wild, but enough to feel real. Gary gave a slow nod. His eyes narrowed just slightly. I took that as a good sign. Walking home that night past Lake Merritt, sunset painting the water gold, I let myself believe that maybe this was it. Maybe the grind was about to pay off. A few weeks later, Gary called me into his office, said he had a vital new project for me. I sat down, heart pounding, expecting to lead FoodLink AI. Instead, he slid a folder across the desk. My hands opened it and my stomach dropped. My idea, my pitch, rebranded as something called Supply Stream. Slick logo, launch press release, all without my name, not in the credits, not even a footnote. I looked at him, asked carefully why my idea was being launched without me. He smiled, the kind of smile that never touches the eyes, and said, "Lucas, ideas are cheap. Execution is what matters. This is a team effort now." I didn't yell, didn't storm out, didn't even text a friend. I just walked back to my desk and stared at the screen until the colors blurred. That quiet weight, that hollow pressure in your chest when something breaks and nothing makes a sound, settled over me. I had been naive. I thought hard work was enough. That in a company like Nextlify, someone would notice if you gave them everything. That night, walking home through the streets of Oakland, the smell of street food mingling with salt from the bay, I learned something different. In some places, they don't steal your money, they don't steal your car, they steal your time, your work, your dreams, and they do it with a handshake and a smile. That was the first crack in the version of me that believed the world was fair. But it wasn't the last. The weeks after that meeting with Gary felt like moving through fog. I still clocked in at Nexlify every morning. It was the same walk from my apartment in Oakland to the BART station and the same hum of the train carrying me into San Francisco. But inside, something had cracked. I'd been the guy who believed in grind, who showed up early, stayed late, thought effort alone could carve out a place. But after they took FoodLink AI, renamed it Supply Stream, and left me behind, I was questioning everything. I kept working, technically, but my heart wasn't in it. I'd stare at the same spreadsheets, watching numbers dissolve into static, wondering how I could have been so blind. Then came the reassignment. They called it a strategic shift. I got the email one morning from HR. It was polite, cold, and efficient. I was being moved to technical support. No explanation, just a new desk location and a start date. So I packed up my corner in the product team's sunny, open-floor office and moved down to the basement, to a cubicle next to a vending machine that never stopped humming. The air down there smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. My new job resetting passwords, troubleshooting Zoom mics, walking people through printer jams. It wasn't just a demotion, it was a message. I'd been erased. Meanwhile, just a few floors above, the Supply Stream team was toasting their first client win with champagne. Sometimes I'd hear their laughter echo down the stairwell as I hauled broken monitors to the IT closet. My idea was out there, making headlines, while I sat in a windowless room, forgotten. I didn't confront Gary, didn't storm in, didn't write a long email. By then, I knew better. Showing pain only feeds people like him. So I kept my head down, watched. I watched him steal credit in meetings, smile for the cameras at launch events, pretend he was the visionary. Never once did he mention the kid in the basement who handed him the blueprint. The breaking point came during a company-wide meeting. We were packed into our San Francisco office sleek space. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a view of the Bay Bridge stretching in the distance. I sat in the back, half hidden behind a potted plant. Gary took the stage, polished and loud, voice booming through the room. He spoke about Supply Stream, calling it a game-changer born from the strategic vision of our leadership team. Then he said it clear, rehearsed, cruel. We had to filter out a lot of noise. He smiled. Impractical ideas like Lucas's AI pitch just weren't ready for prime time. We built something real instead. The room chuckled. Not at me, not exactly. But it felt like the floor tilted. My face stayed still, but my pulse hammered in my throat. I wasn't angry. Anger is hot, reckless, and loud. What I felt was colder, sharper, and more precise, like something inside was being honed. That night, I walked through Oakland's Chinatown. The sidewalks buzzed with life, the clatter of woks, the warm glow of lanterns. I stopped at a small noodle shop on Webster Street, sat at the counter, and stared into a bowl of wonton soup I never touched. I didn't eat. I just thought about the years I'd poured into Nexlify, the nights I'd given up. The loyalty meant nothing. I thought about Gary's smile, the way he erased me with a few words and a smirk, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight him. Wasn't going to beg, wasn't going to shout about fairness. I was going to leave. I went home, opened my laptop, and wrote my resignation email. It was short, professional, no trace of the storm inside. I thanked Gary for the opportunity, said I was pursuing new challenges, wished the team well. I read it once, hit send, and that was it. By morning, I was packing my things, just a few notebooks, a chipped coffee mug, a photo of my parents from their anniversary dinner in San Jose. I walked out of Nexlify's glass doors, crossed the street, and looked back at the building. Its windows reflected a flat gray sky. I didn't curse anyone's name, didn't vow revenge. I just stood there, the box in my arms, and thought, you took my idea once, but you didn't take me. That day, I knew I'd lost something, my project, my place, maybe even my faith in how the world worked. But as I walked toward the BART station, Oakland's cool air brushing my face, I felt something else, a spark. Small, quiet, but real. I'd been knocked down, but I wasn't broken, and whatever came next, it would be mine. Leaving Nexlify felt like stepping off a cliff, but I didn't fall. Not yet. I landed in a cramped studio on 14th Street in West Oakland, creaky floors, flickering lights, and a single window that stared straight into a brick wall. Rent was half what I used to pay, but it still chewed through my savings. I had a few months to make it work if I skipped meals, rationed coffee, and kept the thermostat off, but I wasn't scared. I was focused. That quiet spark I felt when I walked away from Gary. It had settled into something deeper, something steady. I wasn't going to let his betrayal be the final word. I was going to build FoodLink AI, the real version. My version. From the ground up, I started small. Borrowed $5,000 from Mike, an old Army buddy up in Sacramento. He didn't ask for a business plan, didn't want a pitch deck. He just wired the money and said, I know you're good for it. Lucas, that kind of trust coming from someone who'd seen me in worse places meant more than any investor handshake. I used it to rent a corner in a co-working space near Jack London Square, a dusty desk, a wobbly chair, and Wi-Fi that blinked in and out like a dying star. But it was mine. Every day I showed up, opened my wheezing laptop, and got to work. Code, tests, more code. Outside, I could hear forklifts groaning, seagulls crying over the port, cargo ships sliding into the estuary like ghosts. On my breaks, I'd walk by the water, watching the cranes stretch toward the sky like iron skeletons. Those walks reminded me of what I was fighting for. This wasn't just about proving Gary wrong. It was about fixing a system that failed the farmers I'd met, the restaurant owners who told me their stories like confessions. This wasn't revenge, it was a purpose. But I knew I couldn't do it alone, so I started reaching out to people I trusted, people who'd understand why this mattered. First was Sarah. I met her at the Berkeley Farmers Market years ago. She ran a produce stall and knew everything about supply chains, crop rotations, and the pain of wasted harvests. She'd grown up on a farm in the Central Valley, raised her kid alone, and still smiled like she had nothing to prove. I found her number in an old email and called, told her what I was building. She didn't even pause. "I'm in," she said, "but I can only work nights. My kids got school." That was more than fair. Next came Raj, a machine learning engineer I'd met at a hackathon in the city, brilliant but broke. When I found him, he was washing cars in Emeryville, scrubbing the hood of a silver sedan. I pitched while he worked, voice low, words careful. He stopped, looked me in the eye, and asked, "You're serious about this, aren't you?" I nodded. He quit the shop the next week. Then there was Tasha. We went to college together. She'd spent years routing freight across California, knew every highway pinch point and warehouse choke. I met her at a diner in downtown Oakland, over 2 cups of burnt coffee. She started sketching delivery maps on a napkin like she had never left the game. By the time we paid the check, she had already asked about onboarding timelines. We weren't flashy. No Ivy League degrees, no startup press, just 4 people with no budget, no perks, and no time. But we believed, so we worked. Mostly at night, between 10 p.m. and 4, cheaper server costs, fewer distractions. We huddled around my laptop in that cold warehouse, chasing bugs, debugging models, and passing around a single pot of instant noodles. Sarah's daughter, Mia, sometimes curled up on a beanbag chair in the corner, wrapped in a blanket, snoring softly as our code ran. Those nights were brutal, freezing fingers. Caffeine headaches, but they were ours. Every error we fixed, every percentage point gained in prediction accuracy. Felt like reclaiming something stolen. I didn't sleep much. Most mornings I'd lie on my couch, staring at the ceiling, brain spinning through to-do lists, supply data, and version updates. But it wasn't exhaustion, not like at Nexlify. That had been the weight of politics and invisibility. This was fuel, 4 months in. We had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty, half the UI was duct tape. And if you clicked the wrong menu, it crashed. But it worked. It predicted supply needs with 85% accuracy, better than anything I'd seen in SupplyStream's early demos. The night we got our first full success, Raj fist pumped. Sarah hugged Mia, who woke up just in time. Tasha pulled out a dusty bottle of gas station wine. We didn't have much, but we had proof. We had progress. We had each other. I walked home under the low sky, the Oakland streets quiet except for a distant BART train rumbling past like a steel heartbeat. I didn't feel pride. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt possibility. They took my idea, claimed it, renamed it, stripped me out of it. But they didn't take me. And in that warehouse, in those sleepless hours, with that team of night shift builders, I was starting to make something they could never steal. The warehouse in Jack London Square felt different after the prototype worked. The air was still cold. The Wi-Fi still cut out if you blinked too hard, but something had shifted. There was a charge in the room now, like we'd crossed a line no one could see, but all of us could feel. I'd walk in each night and see Sarah scribbling market data on the whiteboard, Raj buried in the code, Tasha mapping logistics with a Sharpie on legal pads. And I'd think, this is real. We're not just trying, we're doing it. We were still broke, still running on instant noodles and borrowed hours. But we had something Nexlify never did: purpose. Then came the break that changed everything. It started with a pitch. I'd signed us up for a small startup showcase in Palo Alto. Nothing flashy, just a community center off El Camino Real. I wasn't expecting miracles. Maybe some feedback. Maybe one conversation that mattered. I stood in front of 30 people, half of them glued to their phones, and walked them through what we'd built. I kept it simple: our numbers, our results, our reason. Sarah jumped in with real stories from the field. Raj demoed the prototype, which by some grace didn't crash. Tasha closed with scaling logistics. We weren't polished, but we were grounded. When we finished, a few people clapped. I figured that was it. But one person was listening. Her name was Elena, a venture capitalist focused on sustainable tech. She caught me as I was packing up our beat-up laptop and handed me her card. "I like what you're doing," she said. "Let's talk." A week later, we were in her office in Menlo Park, sleek, quiet, all redwood and glass. She didn't ask about degrees or resumes. She asked about numbers, accuracy rates, cost savings, real impact. She pressed hard on scale, on market entry, and on competitors. And we answered, not with buzzwords, but with data and dirt under the nails stories. When it was over, she leaned back, smiled, and said, "I'm in $500,000 to start. Show me you can deliver." That money was air. We left the warehouse and moved into a small office in downtown Oakland. Nothing fancy, but it had heat, it had bandwidth, and it felt like a start. We brought on 2 engineers that bought better gear and started taking calls. Suddenly, FoodLink AI wasn't a prototype. It was a product, a good one. Our first major win, a distributor in Los Angeles, ironically, one of Nexlify's own clients. They ran a trial. Results came back 16% lower operating costs, 23% fewer delivery errors. They signed the following month. Then came a restaurant chain in Seattle. Then a farm co-op in Oregon's Willamette Valley. No PR blitz, no press tour, just quiet, consistent delivery, one client at a time. And then, Nexlify noticed. The whispers started small. Old colleagues pinged me, said Gary was ranting in meetings, pacing his office, calling us upstarts, accusing me of betrayal. I didn't bite. I didn't have time. We were building. But then came the letter. Nexlify's lawyers accused me of stealing intellectual property. FoodLink AI was said to be a stolen version of SupplyStream. I wasn't shocked. I'd seen this coming the moment we took their clients. What they didn't know, what they'd never imagined, was that I'd been ready. I had everything. Emails, drafts, timestamps, code bases. All of it dated before SupplyStream even existed. And every line of code we used built from scratch in that freezing warehouse. When it went to court in San Francisco, the truth walked in with us. The judge didn't just rule in our favor. She looked at Nexlify's team like they'd wasted her time. After the hearing, one of their own lawyers pulled me aside and said, "If anyone's stealing here, it's not you." Outside the courthouse on McAllister Street, the fog was rolling in low and heavy. I didn't cheer, didn't call the team, didn't post a victory message. I walked to a cafe around the corner, ordered a black coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city move. We'd cleared a hurdle, but the race was far from over. FoodLink AI was growing, and so was the target on our backs. I knew Gary wouldn't stop, but neither would I. The courthouse victory should have felt like a triumph, but it didn't. Standing on McAllister Street, the San Francisco fog curling around my coat collar, I didn't feel proud. I felt steady, like I'd just passed a test I'd been training for my entire life. I walked to a quiet cafe on Van Ness, ordered a black coffee, and watched the city pulse through the window. The lawsuit was filed. Gary and Nexlify had tried to bury me, but the truth didn't flinch. Still, I knew they wouldn't go quietly. I didn't care. I wasn't building to fight them anymore. I was building something they couldn't reach. FoodLink AI wasn't a prototype. It was a force. And it was moving faster than I'd ever imagined. Back in Oakland, our office on Broadway buzzed with purpose. We doubled to 10 engineers, logistics analysts, data wranglers, all packed into a space that still smelled like fresh paint and cheap takeout. Sarah trained the new hires, translating the chaos of food systems into something human. Raj was sharpening the algorithms like a chef honing a blade. Tasha was closing deals up and down the state. No ping-pong tables and no startup swag, just results. A grocery chain in Portland slashed costs by 18% after switching to us. Vineyards in Napa joined for more accurate harvest timing. And every deal, it wasn't revenge. It was proof, quite proof, that we were simply better, faster, smarter, more grounded. SupplyStream couldn't keep up. Rumors started flowing in. Nexlify was bleeding. Clients gone, stock slipping, Gary is losing control. Board meetings are turning into battles. Employees are jumping ship. Some even reached out, asking if we were hiring. I didn't hold grudges, and if they had skills and showed up hungry, I welcomed them. One of them had been on the supply stream team. She walked into our office, shoulders tight, voice low. "They knew it was your idea," she said. "Gary made us rewrite the code to make it look different, but it was always yours." I thanked her, gave her a desk. I wasn't looking for apologies. I was looking for believers. Then came the news I didn't expect. Gary was out. The board finally pushed him aside after a brutal quarter. Word was he got escorted out with a cardboard box in hand. Tailored suits traded for silence. He took a job at a smaller firm in Austin, a step down from the CEO pedestal he'd built out of smoke. I didn't smile when I heard, didn't gloat, didn't post anything. I just kept working. Because Gary's fall wasn't my win. My win was showing up to that office in Oakland, day after day, watching our product speak louder than any accusation ever could. A few months later, something landed in my inbox that made me pause. The National Supply Chain Conference in Chicago wanted me to speak. They said we were innovators. I hadn't left California in years, but I packed a bag, flew out, and found myself standing backstage at McCormick Place, heart steady but palms slick. The room beyond the curtain was full. Industry veterans, executives, journalists. And then I saw him, Gary, back row, head bowed, suit wrinkled. He looked smaller, deflated. Like someone had finally turned the volume down. The lights hit. The room went quiet. I stepped out. I could have named him. I could have dragged his legacy into the spotlight. But I didn't. I didn't need to. I started my talk with something I'd written the night before. I learned this from someone who wasn't kind. I said, "If you stay quiet long enough, the truth finds its own voice." And the room leaned in. I told them about the nights in that Oakland warehouse, about the ramen, the crashes, the belief. I told them about the people we served, the farmers, the chefs, the ones who needed more than just software. I never mentioned Nexlify. I didn't have to. The number said enough: 90% prediction accuracy, 20% cost reduction. Clients in 10 states and counting. When I finished, the applause rose. But Gary was gone. I never saw him leave. And I didn't need to. That night, walking back to my hotel, the wind off Lake Michigan sharp against my skin, I didn't feel pride or vengeance. I felt clarity. Nexlify didn't collapse because I attacked them. They collapsed because they built on lies, and lies don't last. FoodLink AI thrived because we built on truth, on sweat, on silence, on a team that refused to fold. I didn't beat Gary in court. I beat him by doing what he never could, creating something real. And as I looked at the city lights blinking in the cold, I understood something deeper. The hardest part isn't starting. It's staying back in Oakland. The air felt lighter, like the city itself had exhaled. Our office on Broadway wasn't just a rented room with mismatched chairs anymore. It was a living space, pulsing with the soft hum of keyboards, the low murmur of strategy sessions, and the kind of laughter that cuts through long hours and heavy minds. FoodLink AI had become more than I imagined back in those warehouse nights. We had clients from coast to coast, such as small farms in Vermont and major distributors in Houston. The team had grown to 20. Some were new, some were old friends, Sarah, Raj, Tasha, the ones who were there when all we had was a flickering laptop and a pot of instant noodles. I'd walk through the office and see Mia, Sarah's daughter, curled up in the break room with a math book and a juice box. and I'd feel this quiet certainty. We'd built something real, something that mattered. I didn't think about Gary much anymore. He'd become a shadow, fading further with every new contract signed and every broken supply chain we helped mend. But his impact lingered in the hard lessons he never meant to teach. I'd learned to protect my work, to trust my gut. Most importantly, we should invest in people who show up with nothing but their sleeves rolled up. That's why I built our culture the way I did. We paid well, offered flexible hours, even created a child care fund for parents like Sarah. FoodLink AI wasn't just a company. It was a place people could build something of their own, not survive. Build. One afternoon, during a client call with a co-op in Santa Cruz, Tasha tapped me on the shoulder. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were dancing. "We hit a milestone," she said. "First quarter profit." "Real profit." I nodded, kept my voice level, but inside, I was spinning. Profit meant freedom. No investors breathing down our necks. No loans hanging over our heads. Just runway. Just a possibility. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed in the office, lights off, Oakland's skyline blinking through the window, thinking about how to use that money. Not for me. I still had my studio apartment and my beat-up sneakers. I was fine. But for them, for the people who got us here, the next week, I announced the FoodLink AI Scholarship Fund, just a modest start. A few spots for students from places like West Oakland or San Jose, kids like me, who dreamed in code but couldn't afford tuition. We didn't make a big deal of it. A quiet page on the website, a few emails to local schools. But when the first applications came in handwritten letters, some on lined notebook paper, I felt something deeper than pride. This wasn't revenge or redemption. This was a legacy, a way to give back what I'd almost lost myself, a chance to build something that belonged to you. As we grew, so did our curiosity. Reporters started calling. They wanted the drama. How did it feel to have your idea stolen? Do you hate Gary? Is this all about revenge? I kept my answers short. I'm grateful for the lessons, I'd say. They pushed me to build something better. I never named Gary, never dragged Nexlify through the mud. Not because I was above it, but because I didn't need to. The truth already had a voice. Every farmer was saving money through our software. Every small restaurant didn't have to shut its door. That was louder than any headline ever printed. One day, I got an email. An old Nexlify colleague, someone who'd kept quiet during the supply stream mess. He was working somewhere new. Said he wanted to apologize. "We all knew it was your idea," he wrote. "I should have spoken up." I read it, then archived it. I didn't need his guilt. I'd moved on. But it got me thinking about closure, about how letting go isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about understanding what you've become. I didn't hate Gary. I didn't wish him pain. If anything, I owed him a strange kind of thanks. His betrayal lit the match. Without it, I might still be in that basement cubicle, resetting passwords, hoping someone noticed me. But I wasn't there anymore. I was here, leading, creating, surrounded by people who believed in the mission as much as I did. That evening, I took a walk down to Lake Merritt, the same path I used to take when things were falling apart. The water was calm, glassy, reflecting the city lights like memories. I stood there, hands in my pockets, and thought about the version of me at 29, the kid who thought hard work was enough. He wasn't wrong. He just hadn't learned yet that real work isn't loud, it's not flashy, It doesn't wait for credit. Real work builds quietly, relentlessly, until one day, the world can't look away. I'd close the chapter on Nexlify, on Gary, on the pain of being erased. But the story wasn't over, not even close. FoodLink AI was only the beginning, and whatever came next, I was ready. I'm standing in our new office now, a space we moved into just last month, right on Franklin Street in downtown Oakland. It's not flashy, but it's ours. Big windows, exposed brick, and if you lean just right, a glimpse of the Bay Bridge in the distance. The team's 30 strong now. On any given day, you'll hear a rhythm of voices, different languages, shared laughter, the soft clack of keyboards. Sarah runs our outreach program, helping farmers get the most from our platform. Raj is leading a project to push our prediction accuracy past 95%. Tasha's already drawing up our East Coast expansion. And Mia, Sarah's daughter, has her own little desk by the window, where she draws or does math homework. Sometimes, I catch her watching us, wide-eyed, like she's learning what it means to build something from nothing. This place, this team, this mission, it's more than I ever imagined back in that West Oakland studio, when all I had was a borrowed laptop and a quiet promise to myself. Near the entrance, there's a glass panel etched with a single line: ideas can be stolen. Integrity cannot. I see it every morning when I walk in. It grounds me. It's not just a slogan, it's a reminder of what brought us here, not revenge, not noise. Just the decision to keep building when it would have been easier to stop. I still think about those nights in the Jack London warehouse, the busted Wi-Fi, the ramen dinners, the code that wouldn't run. I think about the courtroom, the clients, the scholarship fund. I even think about Gary, not with anger but with clarity. He taught me something, even if he didn't mean to. He showed me what happens when you chase credit instead of creation. When you take instead of building, I chose a different path. And it brought me here. I don't tell the whole story often. When new hires ask, or someone corners me at a conference, I keep it simple. I had an idea. I say, someone took it, so I built a better one. That's all they need to know. The details don't matter anymore. What matters is what we've built, a platform that helps farmers in Fresno save crops before the forecast fails. That keeps restaurants in Chicago open because their deliveries arrive on time. That gives families like Sarah's a little more breathing room. That's my scoreboard now, and I like the numbers. Sometimes late at night, I still walk to Lake Merritt. Same path I took at 29, when everything felt like it was slipping away. The water's still there, calm, silver, reflecting the lights of the city. I stand by the edge, hands in my pockets, and think about that younger version of me, the one who believed hard work was enough. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't know that the kind of work that matters, the kind that lasts, isn't loud. It doesn't scream for credit. It doesn't chase applause. It builds quietly, day after day, until one morning, the world can't ignore it. That's what we did with FoodLink AI. That's what I'll keep doing. I don't know what's next. Maybe we'll take FoodLink AI global. Maybe we'll start something new entirely. But what I do know is this: I'm not alone anymore. I've got a team, a mission, a place that feels like home, and no one can take that away. As I stand by the lake, the Oakland skyline glowing behind me, I feel something I couldn't name back then. Not victory, not pride, something deeper, a kind of peace that doesn't shout but stays. I've come through the fire, and I'm still standing, not because I was the loudest or the strongest, but because I chose to keep my integrity when everything else was taken. That's the story I'll carry forward. The one I hope you'll carry too. Because whatever you're building, whatever's been taken from you, don't let it take who you are. Keep going. The truth always finds its voice. That's my story, or at least the part that matters most. It's not about the fall or the fight. It's about what you build when the dust settles. I'm still here, still building, still believe that integrity wins in the end. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of your own battles or your own dreams, I'd love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button to join me for more stories like this, and drop a comment below. Tell me what you're building or what kept you going when the odds were stacked against you. Let's keep the conversation alive. Until next time, keep pushing forward.